we're going to put our teams into tiers based off of that scenario, based off Thanksgiving here. So the adult table, that's your contenders list. There's probably only 4 teams, maybe 5. The dinner guest, that is your playoff team. They might make it to the second round. The weird uncle, that's your play-in / on the fringe team. And then the buzzkill, that's has no chance this year. They're part of the league, but they really shouldn't be. They're the league pass team that is never going to be on a main nationally televised games. Welcome to the Cochran Show. My name is John Cochran, and I'm joined tonight by Lauren Anderson. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Just 2 Canadians in Townsville, Australia, talking about American sports.
It's a favorite thing to do. Keeping it multinational.
So where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about John Klay Thompson?
Yeah, what's going on there, John? I saw that. It's just 2 guys that are, for Ja Morant, I don't want to say this, but past their prime.
He's like 25 or whatever.
What's that?
He's like 25, not even past his prime.
Yeah, but this season has been a wash. He's just flushed it, man. Like, shooting averages are not looking good. He's just not carrying the team the way in which his paycheck would demand of him. And he's still pointing the finger as if he's holding guns whenever he's out there. I think Klay Thompson said it pretty fairly when he's like, man, there's no accountability to perfecting your craft and getting in there. And talk is cheap. I want to see Morant get amongst it and get back to being one of the most exciting players in the game. We talked about this last week. He was in debates for being the face of the league. He was right up there with Anthony Edwards, with Luka Doncic, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with Wemby. And he and Edwards are the 2 American guys. So they would want to prefer American players to be right up there. This guy, he just can't catch a break or give himself a chance.
Yeah, you can't be talking smack when you're on the bench and your team is 6-11. That sort of trash talk, and obviously these guys go back to like Klay Thompson. All of his rivalries or all of his nemesises are from his days in Golden State. So Grizzlies, Golden State, they didn't like each other at all. I don't think there's any other team that Golden State hated more than the Memphis Grizzlies. And it just carries over.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. No, they're just all the there was a little bit of argy-bargy with Minnesota there, but it wasn't to the same extent with Golden State. But yeah, this is just unfortunate to watch. It's going to be interesting when the Warriors play the Grizzlies again, see if it carries over and if Draymond Green comes back to sort of get Klay's back and they continue it. And he's going to say on his podcast for sure.
Should Klay Thompson come back to Golden State? Because they need something.
I think it was almost a blessing in disguise for Golden State to be able to move away from some of that nostalgia. Unfortunately,
can I just pitch it? Can I sell it to you?
I don't know if you can, John.
You've come into the Warriors store, and I'm going to sell this product. It's Black Friday, so we'll get a discount. Okay, so last time Klay Thompson was in Golden State, the expectations were still high, both from the fans, the team, and from himself. Expectations, I think he has accepted he's in a different part of his career. Fans would accept that he can't produce, but here's the selling point. Is this version of Klay Thompson any worse than Buddy Hield?
I had a feeling you were going to go there.
Is it any? And my answer is no. Buddy Hield just looks absolutely lost out there. Physically, he's on defense. He's people are just going by him because he's just confused, and I think he's just thinking too much.
I don't know what's going on with Buddy. He had flashes of this a little bit last year as well, where he seems like he is kind of has potential to be one of the most talented kids in the classroom, but it's just got so many focus issues that he's just too interested in clowning around a little bit. I hope that he can turn it around, but I think there's at this stage of his career, I think there's still a little more upside in Buddy Hield than there is Klay Thompson. The locker room difference is big. Is big. You need a moody Klay Thompson next to an emotional Draymond Green. I would rather the romance of Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield at the moment, because that can break the ice on a few things. Like, one of the things that I've been thinking about watching the Warriors is I think it's time to move on. In terms of move on from this constant in your ear expectation that you're a championship team and that you're going to win a championship. And you sit next to Chuck on there and on NBA on TNT, and you're trying to talk to Shaq and say that you're a championship team. You got to embrace where you're at and have fun. And I can't see that Klay Thompson is going to bring more fun into that organization at this point in his career.
All right. Well, two things. Number one, it's NBA on ESPN. They got traded.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Number two, you cannot have a Steph Curry team with no expectations. It just, by that point, it's time to like get rid of Steph Curry. Like, if you're not serious about trying to have those high expectations, I don't think he just wants to ride off into the sunset having fun.
I'm not saying that you got to write off your expectations or like be ambitious with your goals. But what I mean is, like, you can't be like sitting in the media guaranteeing you're going to win a championship. That's what I mean. You can't just sit there be like, talking about all of this stuff without showing it on the floor. I want to see it on the floor. Like, let's put together a team. Let's get focused and let's not give up games to the Blazers. And say, when the difference with watching Steph and the Warriors like 5 years ago is that when Steph went on his benders and his shooting magic, everybody knew that the Warriors were going to win. When he went off and had 15 points in the second quarter against the Blazers or whatever, that 17 in the second,
flipping Blazers, yeah,
it was phenomenal to watch. Steph Magic was back. And the whole time, the Blazers were within 4 or 5 points. Like, they might have opened a 10-point margin, but they cut it back to 4 or 5 real quick. And when you showed me a text of the score at the end of the game, I was not surprised. I would watch the second quarter and then I had to go do something else. But I was just like, oh, man, I knew it. The Blazers were not out. And that's the difference. You got to pull it together for 4 quarters before I get back on that train.
We're both at this stage of life where we've got young kids, young family, and it's very rare that you get to sit down and watch with undivided attention a full game. And I had that opportunity on Saturday, and it just happened to be against the Portland Trail Blazers, and you can just see it begin to unravel. And I'm a Steve Kerr apologist, like evangelist. I like Steve Kerr as a coach, but do you think his butt is getting a little hot, or is he untouchable?
I was thinking about that the other day. My only problem is, who's better? Who do you go and get? It's not like you're bringing in Mike Budenholzer or.
I saw some clickbait that Malone could be on the table as an assistant, like coming in as an assistant. He seems to be pretty cozy at ESPN right now, but yeah.
It is an interesting question. When Kuminga got benched in the playoffs, that's when I really wondered, like, is this the right approach?
Yeah.
Like, sure, if you got to try and get on a guy for their habits and so forth, but you can't bench him and then bring him back when your star gets injured and like celebrate that he's got 30 points and not say anything. Like, that's the part that is, I don't know, tough for me to watch, but.
It's the system, right? Steve Kerr, he's all about like Bill Belichick style, do your job, know what your role is, and then succeed in your role. That's why he benched Tatum in the Olympics, right? Like,
yeah,
Derek White is a better number 3 option on a team than Jason Tatum in terms of he's used to being a number 1. So I can see what Kerr is doing, but I'm going to push the brakes on the panic in Golden State with this statement. Their possibly 4th and 5th best player are both injured right now. Like, that's a significant chunk of minutes, a significant chunks of points that aren't playing for the last, obviously, like Melton hasn't played yet, but Melton's injured. He'll be coming back. And even with all of Kuminga's faults, you find the right role, even if that is coming off the bench as the sixth man. I could see that having a net positive impact for the Warriors. So when they're healthy, I could see them turning it around. It's an 82 game season. And this, I've got to talk about this, Lauren. And then we're going to get into what we're going to get into.
The schedule. This is where you're going?
But not what you think.
Okay.
So I was watching a little clip from a guy, Hoops Tonight, Jason Timpf. Great podcast. I really love listening to his stuff. And he was talking about how the NBA needs to shorten the season. And I cannot get on board with people saying the NBA needs to be shorter. And especially, I can't get on board with players and coaches saying they need to work less. In no other arena does that have any justification. Like, think about the plumber who's getting paid a 32 whatever the fraction is, like an eighth of what an NBA player is getting, working 10-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week, and saying, you know what, we're going to make that plumber work less. It doesn't matter. He's just going to work less. These NBA players are getting paid. Booker is going to get up to like $70 million a year. And you're telling me that the job that half of American kids dreamed of, that you dreamed up as a kid, you're complaining that you're doing it too much?
Yeah, but I think there's another way of looking at it. Okay, so how much do you care about the quality of the product?
I care about the quality of the product. And I just think, what the heck?
How much do you care about the integrity of the quality of the product? I think this kind of goes to, like, technology has gotten so, like, hyped up in terms of the speed that these guys can run on the floor with the shoes that they're wearing and the tech that they're wearing. The AAU system, it's not unfounded what they're talking about in terms of the increased injury risk, in terms of the lack of ability to recover and so forth. I think the argument is that the product becomes better. Like you were saying last week, that you want the best teams, like the best players on the best teams and the best leagues, right? It's good for the league, right? It's not good for the league that Tyrese Halliburton, Giannis is not playing, that Wemby's not on the floor, guy down in New Orleans is out like this, Jason Tatum's out, Damian Lillard is still out. You've got guy after guy after guy who are logging heavy minutes in order to contend for it. I think, like, say you eliminate some of these back-to-backs, especially, like, there's no reason why people need to play 6 games in 8 days. Just doesn't make sense to me.
I've got 70 billion reasons why. And they're the dollars from the TV deal they've signed.
And that's why it's not going to happen, is because people are padding their bank account. And they're still getting paid when they're injured and so forth, which is rightly so, right? But if you want, like, you just think of, like, the football model, or, like, each game is an event that you're looking forward to. Like, it becomes a rivalry. You're playing so many games and you're resting players and people are doing load management and they're not caring until April. Like, I'm sorry.
I blame Kawhi Leonard. Seriously.
Look, I was having this argument like, not necessarily this argument, but I was having this discussion with somebody recently about airlines, right? Recently, we flew to San Francisco on Delta. And halfway through the flight attendant comes out and he's waving a plastic bag that's got a sandwich in it. Anybody want a sandwich? And he just flops it in front of us, and it's just a sandwich in a plastic bag. And not only that, you get nickeled and dimed. You want to have a beer on the plane? No problem. You want to have a scotch? Well, you're going to have to pay, 500 air mile points or whatever, or $12, whatever the equivalent is. Just being nickeled and dimed for the sake of just slashing every profit margin you possibly can from your product. And the integrity of the product suffers from it. You still get from A to B, but it's not the same experience. You fly on a Japanese airline, ANA, everybody who walks in is treated as if they're going on their only holiday that they'll ever go on in their life. You are shown to your seat. I'm telling you this, John, it was fantastic. Before the meal cart comes out, they bring in the drink cart and they say, before your meal, would you like a drink? It's like, yeah, I'll have a scotch and soda, thank you. They go through, then the meal cart comes, and on the meal cart, would you like another drink? Oh, yeah, sure, why not? And then as soon as the meal cart goes, they're like, oh, would you like another drink? I had 3 scotch and sodas on my table and I was having a great flight. But that's just the integrity of the product. They're happy to pay a little bit extra in order to make sure that the value that you're walking away with as a customer is of the highest possible caliber. And you've got coaches, you've got players, you've got physios, you've got doctors, you've got everybody on the side who are saying, hey, do we really need to play 82 games in order to maximize revenue here? Or can we play 72 games, eliminate some of the back-to-backs, which would eliminate some of the load management and some of these other things? And if we do that, we'll give guys more time to recover. We'll increase the amount of practices we can have, and potentially the product and competitiveness on the floor will be better. And then you don't have to go through the schedule and do rostered losses. Like, come on, man.
Well, I disagree because
that's fair.
It's a great analogy, and I hear what you're saying. Totally makes sense. But what they're doing right now with even resting, it doesn't seem to work. Like, where did this the NBA has been 82 games for since I've been alive. It hasn't changed. Injuries, I think there's always a discussion, Lauren, in the first month of the season because players aren't actually prepped in the offseason to ramp up the way they're ramping up. You know what I mean? Like maybe this has to do more with the off-season schedule because a majority of those injuries that you're talking about do happen at the start of the season, like the soft tissue injuries that we're talking about with calves and hamstrings, like Aaron Gordon. He injured his hamstring, came back too early. It looks like he's done a more serious injury now. Like it happens at the beginning of the season.
Have you come across any of the research around the multi-sport versus single sport specialization and its links to injuries?
Is it where like if you play multiple sports, you're less likely to get injured?
What they were looking at is with the dawn of the AAU, they were looking at how fast kids are having to get into a high level to be able to get coached and so forth. And so when they're going to AAU tournaments, they're playing 8 to 10 to 15 different games on a weekend, which is different to the European model where you might have games for weeks and then you have a tournament towards the end of the season. And what they're seeing is that these guys who are not necessarily practicing and allowing their bodies to catch up with drills and with strength training and all the other stuff from a young age, they're putting huge game miles on their bodies. And while you're young, you can recover faster a little bit, but it's taking a toll on the longevity of their capacity to play sports. And because they have to get into AAU teams and play in order to focus to be able to go through the developmental track and so forth, they're missing out on some of the other benefits that are coming if you're playing different sports and so forth. And so while you might not necessarily get to that tier at the same time, you've developed all sorts of different, hand-eye coordination, balance skills, core, all of your posturing and stuff like that. And so there was a lot to be said about, warnings about the injuries that are coming off of guys that are coming to the NBA, having not just a college and a high school career, but an AAU career that has started from the time they're like 6 years old. And so the difference in the number of games that they've played before they even start in the NBA is like in the hundreds, if not thousands. And game speed is a lot different to training speed. And, that can have a significant factor too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. We could talk all day about it. Here's my solution. Like keep the schedule. They can't for at least the next 11 years. You can't change it because you're locked into the amount of games that you've got. If Lauren, we both work, we both have similar jobs. You've got a certain amount of leave that you accrue, and if you take more than that on top, you've got your unpaid leave, right? Start charging players. Like you don't get paid for the games you don't play, and instead of that being like a $300 paycheck, that's a $300,000 paycheck that they don't get paid for that game or whatever they're making, something ridiculous. So
that's wild. Get that
anyhow,
through the players union. Yeah, good luck.
I mean, it's not just NBA. Let me just make my final 2 points here, and then we'll move on to some tiered ranking. NFL, same thing. They play once a week. They only play 17 games. They want to shorten this. They always want to shorten the season. We play too many games. You're just, in my opinion, and I don't say this lightly, you're soft. Rugby league over here in Australia, you don't hear any of that we need to play less games. They're not wearing padding. They're not wearing any of that. They're not getting paid as much. They're just happy to go out, put it on the line. It's their job, a job that they know millions of other people would love to do, and they go out and play. NBA, I don't know. Are they soft? Could they be? NHL has the exact same schedule. You never hear about NHL players wanting to play less games. They're gritty, they're tough. They play the schedule that's handed to them. Just do your job. That's my rant for this episode of the Cochran Show. All right, Lauren. It's been a good start to the season, and I thought Thanksgiving is coming up in the US. It's one of my favorite seasons. Obviously in Canada it's a different day, but Thanksgiving in my family meant you come together with your extended family and you have a meal together. Everyone would have turkey, you'd have stuffing, you'd have all this amazing food, and you'd come together. And so at the Thanksgiving dinner, you had the adult table, you had sometimes there'd be friends of your family that would come, like the dinner guests. They're not part of the family, but they're there and you might enjoy their company. Most families have that weird uncle that like their siblings probably have their eye on them, like, or an ear, like what are they saying to my children? They got the weird uncle, and then you've got the buzzkill, someone that's there that maybe shouldn't even be there, but kills the buzz of the vibe. And so we're gonna rank we're gonna put our teams into tiers based off of that scenario, based off Thanksgiving here. So I've got the tiers here so that we know. So the adult table, that's your contenders list.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's probably only 4 teams, maybe 5. The dinner guest, that is your playoff team. They might make it to the second round. The weird uncle, that's your play-in / on the fringe team. And then the buzzkill, Washington. Like has no chance this year. They're part of the league, but they really shouldn't be. They're the league pass team that is never going to be on a main, a nationally televised game. So, all right, let's start at the adult table. I'll do one and then you do one.
Sounds good.
And if we disagree, just let me know if you disagree. We'll just start obvious. You've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. One loss we know the story. They've just got so much talent. Their future even, like they have so much draft capital. I don't know if they have to consolidate. Like they could even get better, but Oklahoma City Thunder, they're at the top of the list for me.
100%. The interesting question for these guys moving on will be how do they pay everybody appropriately, unless they take out some Clipper style deals with some out of arenas funding.
Yeah.
That team is just scary. I watched them against the Blazers today, and just for 5 minutes, it was like I turned it on. Scores were almost tied in the first quarter, and then Shea just gets to the line 3 possessions in a row and then has a nifty floater. He got 8 points, and all of a sudden they're up by 10. This team is just so incredible to watch. The way in which they defend is just intense, soul crushing. And you never know who the second and the third star is going to be. Like one of their boys off the bench was lights out today. And it's just the way they stick up for each other is just awesome.
And let me just say, like this year, they've got Philly's draft pick 1 through 4 protected. They've got their own. They've got Utah, which is 1 through 8 protective. They've got a second of Dallas or Philly. And then after that, 2027, they've got the Spurs, which is lottery protected. Denver, top 5 protected. They have a swap with the Clippers in 2027. Like the Clippers could be really bad in 2027. And
thank you, Paul George.
Yeah. Paul, man, We still got to do that pod, but unbelievable. Okay. So,
all right.
Who do you got?
Obviously, the out of table is another Western Conference team to begin with, and this is the Denver Nuggets. You got to put them in there. You know, from one wizard of a team to an individual wizard, Jokic is he's magic. It's just incredible what he's doing, and I think their team is better than it has been, or than it was last year. So, yeah, let's get the Denver Nuggets up on the out table as well.
I'm just not seeing the Denver Nuggets in my list of teams here, so that's my fault.
They're down there right in the bottom right corner.
There they are. There we go. Thank you. Denver. All right. Now, those are the two clear teams from the West. I'm just looking through the list here. To be honest, I don't know if there's too many other teams in the adult table in general, right? The team that I'm thinking would be the Rockets, but
I had Houston in that adult table as well.
You've got Houston in the adult table? I'll put them there for now, but let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not super convinced about Houston, especially thinking that you'll have to go through either Denver or OKC. And do you trust Houston enough to be able to do that without a point guard, without too much success they don't have success in the playoffs? Now they've got Kevin Durant, but he's an older Kevin Durant. I'm not sure.
Look, I think they've got a whole season to work it out, but I just think that their height is a real asset. Their strength is a real asset. I think they grew up a lot last year, especially in that Warrior series of going to 7 games. I think that they're really, really well coached with Ime Udoka. He's really lighting a fire under that team. Yeah, that Thompson guy is just a phenomenal defender. The thing that I like about them is they play with a lot of confidence, and they're a real physical team that is not gonna back down. I think this is sort of like a warm up early in the season for them. I'm not worried about them finding their straps, and it's not a surprise to me that they're number 2 in the NBA right now in the West.
All right, well, let's go to the dinner guest. Again, they are a playoff.
They're not number 2, they're number 4 in the West. Sorry,
they're number 4. Who's 3 right now?
It's the Nuggets.
The Lakers?
Lakers are number 2 at the moment.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to go out east because we can't just have West teams, and I'm going to go Detroit Pistons as a dinner guest. So they are somebody.
You mean you don't have them at the out table?
I don't.
Really?
No.
Why?
Okay. Well, they are in the East. You might be able to change my mind just because of the conference they're in. But in my opinion, they're last year's Houston.
Last year's Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
These boys are on a 12-game winning streak. They're the hottest team in the NBA right now.
We said the same thing about Houston last year.
Some of that was with Cade Cunningham on the bench. Isn't it Jalen Duren's on a contract year? I think that in the East, so far, they are the number 1 team in the East by 2.5 games. They just are eviscerating teams, if not winning all the close games that they used to lose. And I think that is when a team really comes into its own and pulls back and starts to win those close games. I had them on the adult table as the only Eastern representative, just because
we can have them there.
I like a nice, 2 couples, right? 2 couples hosting the Thanksgiving dinner. Generally it's the mom and the dad, as well as their favorite children or the children who are the hosts, right? And so there's a nice group of 4 at the adult table, and then we'll turn to the dinner party guests.
All right, we'll go to the dinner party guests, and they're probably still at the table. The Detroit Pistons are like, that person that sits in the center, and their whole time during dinner is just passing people food. Like, oh, could you pass the stuffing? Could you pass the mashed potatoes? That's the Detroit Pistons. They're just passing the guests everything. All right. So the dinner guest then. That was actually Detroit was my choice. So you're up, Lauren.
All right. So on the dinner party guest, I got reluctantly, I'm putting the Lakers in that first guest there. I did not think that they were going to be this high. Luka is playing Luka basketball. I wasn't sure what was going to happen defensively with the Lakers when LeBron came back, but I don't think anybody had anticipated Austin Reeves having, upper 30s, upper 40-point games. They're looking all right. They're looking really good. They got a bit of a shock and were able to hold on with some poor execution against Utah today, but
the best thing that could have happened for the Lakers was LeBron to be out for the first 12 games.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if Austin Reeves has that same awakening with LeBron there, and it's just setting them up for a fantastic future. If they're even dominating, right? He's sort of stepped up. He's rebounding the ball. He's doing what's asked of them. JJ Redick has them playing their roles well. I think there probably is a move to be made for the Lakers. Vanderbilt, I think at the trade deadline he'll be gone. I don't see him being a part of the Lakers organization at the end of the year, and you might be able to pawn him off to some team. He's a good hustle player. Heck, Warriors, we can take him.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think that's a good point. Yeah, they're exceeding my expectations. I think they thought there was going to be big holes in their defense, and maybe that'll still come. But yeah, LeBron, I think, is one of the most impactful leaders in the game and has had so many instances where he's taken guys who have been in questionable parts of their careers and had been able to help get the best out of them. And this Lakers team is fun to watch. But you know what? I feel like every dinner party has that one person at the table is really good, but then also knows it and is like, because of the way in which they flaunt it, you almost like really, really, or for me, delight when they lose the board games after dinner. This is this guest where it's like they're obviously should be at this party and at this table, but I will not. I won't be disappointed if they bail out in the first or second round of the playoffs.
They're the you know those type of people. They're the one upper. Like you tell a story and then they tell a story just to one up you.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I just ran my first half marathon. Oh, cute. How fast did you go? Yeah, I just finished my first half ultra.
All right, this next team, Lauren, it's fringe dinner, fringe weird. Okay, and
okay.
I might regret this one, but in coming in the season, I was shocked. I'm gonna have to put the Raptors in a dinner guest.
Yeah.
It could just be a hot start. Season is young still, but they're just playing well. Everyone is, Brandon Ingram. He might not be the best defensive player. He might not have the best court vision, the best basketball IQ, but you give him the ball and say, go get a bucket. He's a poor man's Kevin Durant. Like that mid-range pull-up jumper is lethal.
It's true.
RJ Barrett, like representing Canada in Canada. I really love what I'm seeing from the Raptors.
Yeah, they're really fun to watch. They're really fun.
Yeah, they're the dinner guests that they're the spouse of someone in your family that's from like overseas, or like the girlfriend that's from overseas. That's the Toronto Raptors. You don't get to see them very often, but you do. But when you do, it's a delight.
All right, so if we're going with that acronym, this is the team that comes in there, or the guest that comes in, and you're just like, wow, how did my sibling get that person as their date? And you're just like, what? How did you do it? And you know where I'm going with this. This is the San Antonio Spurs. You're trying not to look the whole dinner. You're being a weirdo, but you can't just take a side glance. The San Antonio Victor Wembanyama is still must-watch television, even if he did cool down after his hot start. I can't wait till his legs get back under him. I hope he doesn't miss too many more games. But the San Antonio Spurs have proven to be a well-rounded team. It looks like they've got a lot of good options. And yeah, they're I like them. I like where they're at.
It's pretty crazy with the Spurs. Hey, like Wemby, this is his third year.
Yep.
And I think they had a long-term view with this team of when is realistic for them to win a championship. And I think that has just been accelerated. And I think like it's got to be within that, like there's pressure on them, and pressure does some crazy things to teams. Pressure does crazy things to coaches.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be a reactionary bunch in terms of in the front office where they'll fire a coach for not producing right away. But even looking at Wemby's career, right? And I've heard someone else talking about this. You don't know how long he's going to be in his prime. You don't know how long his body is going to upkeep and be healthy. And you just gotta, you gotta take advantage of it right now. You can't wait. You can't play the long game. It's got to be right now.
Yeah.
So the Spurs. All right, I'm gonna go. Lauren, by the way, you've chosen 5 Western Conference teams, so I'm holding it up in the East over here. I'm gonna bring in the New York Knicks just because I feel like they're going under the radar right now, but you just know with Brunson that and Towns and Bridges and Anunoby, like they're gonna be fringy, they're gonna be frisky. So they've got to be the dinner party. I don't see them at the adult table. Brunson's feet wouldn't reach the floor on the adult chairs, but he can be a guest. We can get one of those. No, he's taller than me. But anyhow,
you know what's interesting is that I think this other team in the East, they were at the adult team table last year, and this year they're not. This year they're a dinner guest, but they're not at the big boy table anymore. The Cleveland Cavs, they're a dinner guest. There'd certainly be a playoff team, but there's a little more shaky than I would like to see.
Yeah, last year they're at the adult table. I don't know what the analogy is like. They divorced somebody, but they're still friends with the family, so they're there. That's Cleveland this year. You got to invite them still, and hey, when they show up, it might be a great time. The spark might be there still.
And it's awkward for everybody.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Really, like the family liked them more than the actual person. Yeah. I don't know where to go here. I think there's probably only one more team that belongs in this tier. Would you agree? Just one more?
I've got a couple more. I kind of divided it as teams that like the first 12 in the NBA that I thought were going to make it into the playoffs without having to go through the play-in. So I've got Weird Uncle as my play-in teams.
Okay.
So I've got 3 more spots. So we've used up quite a few spots on the West. So there's only room for one more Western Conference team, but there's still 2 more spots for the East if you want to play it like that.
Yeah. Okay. So for the West, I'm going with Minnesota. I just still think that they're going to get their stuff together. I trust them more than. Look, I'm president of the Phoenix Suns club right now. I'm not putting them as a guest at the moment. They're going to go into for me, they're in the Weird Uncle because they're weird. It's like, how the heck are you there? Like, you shouldn't be where you are, but you are, but we'll get to them. But Dylan Minnesota
Brooks cannot be sitting at any other table, my friend.
Pardon?
You cannot put Dylan Brooks on any other table.
It's true. He is just a photo of Dylan Brooks in the Weird Uncle section. Oh, look, I think Ant-Man, he's got this history of him where he just gets better as the season goes. He typically starts feeling things out. He's playing point guard right now, so we'll see if that continues. But I just trust that when they get into the playoffs, that they can steal around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Minnesota. I would love to get DiVincenzo back from Minnesota if there's a trade there for Golden State. Yeah, I love him. He's a great player.
Yeah, so if I could just do 2, the last Eastern Conference teams that I think should be at the dinner party guest table, I've got the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. I think they're still a little tier above some of these other Eastern Conference teams, which is surprising when we get into the weeds of who's at the Weird Uncle table. But I think those 2 teams still have a little shot.
I agree with you on Miami. I don't know if I'm there with Atlanta.
Okay.
I mean, I'll put them in there, but let's talk about them and see if they stay there. I just think they're weird. Like, I put the word weird in their team.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Are they better without Trae Young? Do they need to trade Trae Young? If they don't have Young, what's their ceiling? Like Porzingis, he's in and out of the lineup. Is like, I actually haven't heard. Has he played a game? Has Kristaps
Yeah,
Porzingis played a game? Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So that's, in my opinion, they're inconsistent, but I think you're right in terms of the teams that are left in the Eastern Conference. If I were to replace the Hawks, I think the closest comp to the Hawks in the East is the Bulls. Like, I don't know how far apart the Bulls and the Hawks actually are.
I mean, they are. Yeah, it's just like there's basically a game difference. I think some timing stuff could come down to it. Maybe Trae Young sitting out is good for the rest of the team to get that, in the same way that LeBron James being out gave a little bit more evidence to the rest of the team as to what their ceiling can be, what their potential is. And so when Trae comes back, hopefully he can manage that a little better. I just think they've got a little bit. Geez, the Great Barrier Thief, researcher is all right. And I think if they do play to their potential is a little bit higher. You're right, they are a little bit weird, but trying to think about what other team that I would guarantee not to be in the play-in, that's an interesting question in the Eastern Conference. Like those top 5 teams, Detroit, Toronto, Cleveland, Miami, and New York, they seem to be the higher caliber teams. And then below that it's kind of dicey, which is surprising because you got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia and Orlando. Those 3 teams were 3 that I thought were going to be a lot higher in these rankings. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, let's just have a look here. So we've got the top 7 teams in the East currently in their current locations. Let's keep Atlanta in there at the moment. And then once all the teams are sort of laid out and all the teams are in their sections, we'll do some jigging if we think we need to. So you're happy to go to the Weird Uncle? All right. The Weird Uncle, the Golden State Warriors.
It's a sad day when you do that.
You can have a photo of Dylan Brooks. Right next to him would be Draymond Green. And heck, Jimmy Butler would be in that photo too. The Weird Uncle, that's just who they are. It's, in my opinion, that they can be better than they are. And I think their ceiling is dinner table. But for some reason, it's like the more they talk about what they need to do, the less they actually do it.
Yeah.
Like in the media, the more they say, we've got to play with urgency. We've got to make the right play. We got to hit singles instead of trying to go for the home run. They just do the opposite of all that stuff when they actually play. And it's not their young guys. I mean, they're young guys like Moody. He'll shoot 7 threes in 1 quarter and then proceed to score 7 points in each of the next 2 games. But the old guys, like, they're just the ones that are making the bonehead errors, the turnovers, and it's frustrating, but they're the Weird Uncle.
I agree. It's a sad day when you have to admit that, but for all of the reasons that you've just said, until there's consistency, you can't expect to be anything but a little bit erratic. You know what I mean? So,
all right, who do you got?
Yeah. All right. So I would like to bring across the Chicago Bulls onto the Weird Uncle table. I was listening to an interview with Josh Giddey the other day, and I couldn't quite tell how much of his American accent was being put on for the purposes of the interview, because the more he was talking, the more Australian was coming through, and I was like, come on, boy, come on. Don't ignore your roots. But Josh Giddey is fun to watch. A triple-double machine. It's incredible to see him be so high up in even the MVP race. The Bulls, man, had such a great start to the season. I think they're shaking out a little bit more to what was expected of them. I wonder if there'll be a trade team that'll be looking to try and improve their roster as they go. They're also quite young, too, so it'll be interesting to see if they move on from Vooch or if he's the name that they need to, the guy that they need to sort of steady the ship. But all things considered, they showed that they could hang, and I do think that Josh Giddey raises to big moments, so that'll be impressive to see if he can keep it moving.
Let's go for a Jonathan Kuminga. And what's his first name? White on the Bulls. What's his first name? I would love that trade.
Yeah.
Kobe White. Kobe White reminds me a lot of Jordan Poole when Poole was on the Warriors, and I think that's people give Jordan Poole a lot of flack for when he was in Golden State, but they don't win that championship. They don't go 18-2 to start the 2022 season without him. He was a key contributor of that team. Kuminga for Kobe White, let's make it happen. Or even Podziemski, if contractually if that's what needs to happen. But hey, it's time.
It's a big gap. The Warriors can't take too much more in salary. Kobe White's getting paid 12.9. Moses Moody kind of level. You'd either have to do Buddy Hield and Podziemski to get to that Kobe White sort of level.
That's a realistic trade.
Yeah.
For the Warriors. I don't think the Bulls would say yes, but Phoenix Sun, welcome to the Weird Uncles table. What more to be said? We thought you were going to be a buzzkill, but for some reason you're clicking. You don't have Green playing. You're winning games you should lose and probably losing games you should win. And Devin Booker is having the time of his life over in Phoenix, and I foresee them coming back to earth a little bit. I don't think their ceiling is as high as what they're doing right now, but they're going to play hard. They're going to score buckets, and they might give up 150 points in some games, but they might score 150 points as well. So Phoenix, weird uncle. Seriously, I'm going through the Suns. You've got Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie. I guess he's a standout. Mark Williams, Nick Richards, Jordan Goodwin, Ryan Dunn. They just don't have. They're just over exceeding this year, and it's amazing to see. All right, who do you want to bring in to the Weird Uncle? Any other teams? I've got one more.
All right, I wanted to bring in the Philadelphia 7.
Okay, Philly. It's true.
Yeah. I like Edgecombe as a rookie. He's fun to watch, especially seeing him asking Joel Embiid if he's still handsome. That was hilarious. Tyrese Maxey is keeping this team together, and if they can continue getting some stuff out of him, I hope that the weird uncle of the Paul George and Joel Embiid skeletons can steady them and keep them in that place. Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out, but I think that there's still possible. We've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots in the play-in spot, if that's what the weird uncle is about.
Okay. Yep. Well, let me just say, Tyrese Maxey might be the only player in the NBA that would advocate for a 92-game season. He's just got so much energy, and he just seems to really like to play basketball in a way that maybe some other people have got too focused on the business of basketball and lost sort of the passion for the fact that it's a game and it's something that you can just have a lot of fun doing.
Yeah. No, he's fun. It's certainly fun to watch. There's a bright spot for Philadelphia. Who you got next?
Orlando.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think coming into the season, most people would have had Orlando somewhere between the adult table and the dinner guest.
Yeah.
But there's just something, I think there's something weird in Orlando. Do you remember, I was hearing someone talk about this before, it might have been the Bill Simmons podcast. Remember when Kyrie Irving went to Boston when they still had Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? And the team should have been a lot better than they were, but there was some sort of disconnect between Kyrie and the young and up-and-coming players. 100%. I don't know if that's what's happened with Bane coming into Orlando, but I don't know. There's something off about the team, in my opinion. Maybe it's the pressure of expectations. I don't know.
Yeah. I keep wondering, I've said it before, this year's Pacers team, this season's Pacers, will they be able to right the ship? But it's really not looking super enthusiastic from them yet. But yeah. So here's my interesting Western Conference weird uncle. Portland Trail Blazers. Getting some sneaky wins here. You were talking about them a couple weeks ago, and I was scoffing. And Avdija does not give up. They've got some bigs, some big bigs, and Yeah, it'd be interesting to
I
see.
can't stand. I think it's Advia. I can't.
Yeah.
He just destroys the Warriors no matter what team he is on. Like I think he was in Washington um before he was in Portland, but he is a great player. He just as a knock, he's one of those shooters that when he shoots the ball, you're surprised when it doesn't go in. Like
And he
when it's a
does
catch and shoot
shooting
situation.
against the Warriors. He missed like 3 in a row and just was like, no, today he missed 3 in a row and just kept letting it fly, just did not give up. And then the Thunder
Yeah.
sucked out their soul. But I mean, for a while there, they were looking okay.
Do you remember in the Wemby Scoot draft, some people were saying Scoot should go number 1?
Nobody still has their job. That's one of those takes where like, that's like one of those takes where if everybody's zigging, you got to zag.
Yeah. Or it's one of those takes of America's always better. Like, I think there are people that just want to have that American superstar.
Yeah.
When, it's like the Doncic draft. People thought Doncic was drafted too high, and that's with Wemby. And people are craving for greatness to come out of America.
Those are the same people that will only order freedom fries. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No matter where they are in the world, give me a hamburger.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. You could be in Italy. Like, just give me my American hamburger. All right.
All right. So we got 2 more spots.
It's grim from here, Lauren, to be honest.
Yeah. But so
like, I could make a case
question.
that all of these.
And so this would be the interesting question. Who are the last 2 weird uncles? Because in some ways it's anybody's game.
I think the Clippers are going to turn it around.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. My final.
The only reason why I say the Clippers is I believe in Ty Lue. And James Harden just scored 55 points yesterday.
Yeah.
James Harden is still fantastic. And Ty Lue, I just trust his ability to figure it out, to play to the strengths of his team. Kawhi Leonard, yet again, has dealt with injuries so far. I think the Clippers will be all right. And if you look at the other teams that are in the West, I mean, you can't take them above LA.
The only team I was thinking of was Utah, only because they can't afford to, it doesn't really matter for them to lose because they're not keeping their lottery pick too, right?
I think they are. I think it's top 5 protected.
Is it really? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, because I was it was in OKC. Yeah. Top 8 protected from.
Okay, top 8. Well, yeah, then what the heck are they doing trying to win any games?
This is what happens every year, right? The last couple of years, they start the season really hot, and then they start trading players to get more draft capital, and they tank.
Yeah, right.
But Keontae George, he seems to be a good player. They must be happy with how he's going over there.
Well, okay, yeah. Interesting. Huh.
So you've got to bring an Eastern team, I think.
Yeah. And that was kind of tricky. I was going between Boston and Milwaukee, and I chose Boston in the end.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting.
Jaylen Brown, he does deserve to be a weird uncle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that the Giannis, he would be a dinner guest any other year, but this team is a little bit uncertain. And with his injuries, their margin is so thin. I think they're definitely a trade team. But yeah, how long do you keep Giannis in Milwaukee? How long does he stick around? That'll be the big question. So
that'll be a huge question. I mean, it's almost impossible to trade him.
Oh, there's no like viable scenario for $54 million.
No, it's like Golden State. They could throw Jimmy Butler. They could throw Kuminga. They could throw Pods and like 3 first-round picks. Like that might be one of the best scenarios. You could have the Spurs throw
Jimmy Butler and Giannis they have the same contract.
Yeah, so
you'd have to, but they're not doing a 1-for-1 swap in a million years.
No, but I also no. And so it would be that would just to make the contracts work, and then you send young assets, and you might need to get some older players in return, but it's sort of just to get the money working so that you can get the draft capital. The Spurs as well, right? De'Aaron Fox.
You would have to take both Antetokounmpos.
Yeah. What a way to make a career. Yeah, it shows how much authority you have in an organization.
Yeah, right.
I saw that he's averaging a triple-double with claps, cheers, and almost fights.
Man. Hey, I'm all for sharing the wealth in your family. If you can make it work, Braun's doing it in Los Angeles. There's all these little things. If you take your family for a ride, it'll be the best years of your life. You won't regret a moment of it.
Well, Bronny sent down to the G League.
Yeah.
So that means these are our buzzkill teams.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is a word that is better than Milwaukee looks wrong in that group of teams, though, don't 100%. They? Yeah. Because any of these teams, you're not turning on to watch. Like, you're not turning on to see Michael Porter Jr. shoot 40 shots a game.
No.
But by the way, who is probably playing a little bit better than Cameron Johnson is so far.
You're not turning on. Different scenario.
Just saying. You're not turning on. You're going to turn on Dallas just to see how Cooper Flagg is?
Yeah, no? They're losing some close games at the moment. It's gut-wrenching for them.
Wizards?
I'm not watching the Wizards.
No, you're not watching the Wizards. You're not watching the Wizards since John Wall.
Yeah. So of those teams in the buzzkill, I had a little subcategory of the drunk uncles. Like, when they get buzzed, you kind of just want to watch what's going to happen just because it's going to be funny. Everybody else is going to kill your mood. But for me, Milwaukee, Indiana, and Dallas, I'm still watching those teams, right? Because, like, Indiana, it's really too bad just, their situation. But I think they also know that they could get a good draft pick. So I don't think the incentive is to win really high because you're out of it. It must be demoralizing for those guys. But you've still got Siakam, right? You've still got Nembhard, who's playing really quite well. And they still were able to take down the Warriors. So I think that there's lots to like in that Indiana organization. They've got a lot of injuries at the moment and so forth. But so if there was a league bet like Indiana against maybe Philadelphia, I might be interested to turn it on. But Brooklyn playing Indiana or Philadelphia? No, thanks. I think each one of those teams, I'm not getting up for the Kings, for the Pelicans,
Yeah. Kings, I would say, are a drunk uncle. Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying the drunk uncles, Milwaukee, Indiana, and Dallas. Those are the instead, they're buzzed, but they're not a kill. You want to see what happens because
Got it. Okay. Something interesting can happen.
It's going to be some funny stories. Anything can happen. They might even roast one of the adults one night just for old time's sakes. It's going to be great viewing, but they're not seriously gonna last very long before they stumble up to bed.
Indiana Pacers. Did I get those teams right?
Yeah, those were my three.
Yeah, okay. Indiana Pacers have a really interesting opportunity. They've got the 2020 Golden State Warriors opportunity right now. Right? Where Steph was injured, Klay Thompson had torn his ACL, Kevin Durant was no longer there, Thompson was his ACL and his Achilles. And so they sucked. And they got the second overall pick. Could you that draft, I don't want to focus on the Golden State Warriors too much, but that draft could have been a next 10 years altering draft. The second overall pick, and you get James flippin' Wiseman.
They could have had Halliburton.
They could have had Franz Wagner.
Yeah.
They could have had, now I don't know if I would have wanted LaMelo Ball, but they could have had LaMelo Ball.
That wouldn't work in their system.
There were so many great players, and obviously hindsight is key 2020, but Pacers, if they, rest Siakam, don't play to win, and see what happens. Maybe you can get a top 5 draft pick this offseason, and then Halliburton comes back and you're sort of back in the race, especially in the East. Tatum will come back and that will be interesting for Boston, but Pacers have a really bright future, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was tough on the Warriors. You really want a do-over for that. I mean, this is you can never know, right? You just never know.
And you can't complain, right? They had a great run, but all right, is there anybody in this, Lauren, that you think is questionable or iffy? Or let me ask this. At the All-Star break, give me a team from each category that will be in a different category. If that's too much to ask, just choose one team.
No, I think the adult table is pretty well set. We'll see if Cleveland can maybe climb into that conversation as the season goes on. The dinner guest table, I would love for the Raptors to stay that hot. I don't know how it shakes out for the whole season and whether or not they become a trade team. You know, whether or not this roster is sustainable for a long period of time, I'm not sure. Yeah, if Trae Young comes back and Atlanta starts to fall, that would be a team going down. Any other team in the weird uncle that can make a roller coaster going back up, I would love for the Warriors to show us, that they're worthy of being at the table and, capitalizing on Steph's final years. That would be awesome. Buzzkill is the buzzkill. Unless John Morant decides that he wants to play basketball and do more on the court than what he is, yapping, then there be maybe the one team that can change it up. But yeah, I think
I've got one categories. I got one team from each category. The adult table, no one will move, but I'll move them. I think Lakers could come into the adult table.
Yeah, wow.
The All-Star break.
Yeah.
I think that the Hawks will come down to the weird uncle.
Okay.
I think the Warriors are going to move up to be a dinner guest.
Your optimism is admirable.
Thank you. You could also add in Orlando there, but I'm not going to because I got to show my love. I'm going to move. It's either Portland or Boston, but I'm going to move Portland down to the buzzkill.
Wow. Okay.
This might shock you, and I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to move the Pelicans.
You think when Deontay Murray comes back, they become a different team?
No, I haven't sold my stock yet for Zion. He's frustrating. He's not playing very much, but he ropes me in. I'm a sucker, I know. He just ropes me in. He's weird.
Cash out while you still can. Cash out while you still can.
He's just a weird uncle. In fact, and then I will say that by the All-Star break, we'll have the Bucks in there. And this doesn't make sense in terms of what we're doing, but I'll take the Clippers into a drunk uncle.
Well, you know what? That's where I had the Clippers myself, in the drunk uncle category.
Did you?
Yeah, you snuck them into the weird uncle, but they have the NBA's oldest roster, and it some nights it just shows. But maybe the Chris Paul retirement announcement was just the motivation that team needed to try and win a chip for CP3.
I feel like they're all in that retirement stage, so they got to win a chip for themselves.
Yeah, that would be brutal if CP3 had to announce it early on. So he got the Kobe Bryant retirement tour because that would be the best thing to play for rather than actual wins. He'll get love wherever he goes.
How much do you value championships on players' resumes?
Look, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon, the championship bandwagon. There are so many phenomenal players that didn't win it. Like, as a Canadian, the fact that Vince Carter is not an NBA champion does not undermine the career that he had and the absolute impact that he had over his NBA career. And there's a lot of guys like that. I think it's too bad that there's such a strong obsession with that championship, because what it's done is spawned the championship culture where guys just move around to try and win one. And unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to work, like Gary Payton and Steve Nash on the Lakers and some of these different desperation moves at the end of careers. Yeah. I think you can have a pretty brilliant career, be a Hall of Famer, and not have a championship.
I agree with that. I do just, you hear, so I was hearing someone talk about Chris Paul today, and they said, look, after everything he's done in his career, like, he's had an amazing career, and I hope him the best or whatever. I think that was JJ Redick talking about Chris Paul. And that just had me thinking, what is that everything?
What do you mean?
Yeah, I know he played for, like, after everything he's done in his career, and it sounds like accolades. And yes, he's made certain teams and like Olympics and things like that. I don't know. You have to think to create the resume of his career, right? It's not like glaring there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he was the captain of the Lob City team. He had the Hornets were perennial favorites, and when he was at the apex of his career, the NBA, was so scared of what would happen in Los Angeles that they kiboshed a trade for him going over there. Lob City was fun, man. When you had DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin catching lobs, they were so fun to watch and had some pretty good playoff runs. Partnering up with James Harden in Houston, they had some deep playoff runs, and they were a couple of injuries in one quarter, one crazy, series of missed 3-pointers, 30 missed threes or whatever, away from potentially getting into the finals, and you never know what happened. I think he's had a pretty darn good career. Look, I think that CP3's impact on basketball is probably career-wise greater than Dwight Howard's if you look at the two different careers. Dwight Howard has a championship. CP3, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Dwight Howard, people forget just how dominant Dwight Howard was in his prime. And maybe that's the same with Chris Paul. We forget how good he was in his prime. But Dwight Howard, when he was on Orlando, man, that guy was unstoppable. He was so good.
Here's the question. Did, Dwight Howard, he was at his prime, and he didn't win at his prime, right? He bounced around, had all sorts of teammate issues, had his scandals off the court and so forth, was always, like, when he got to the point in his career where he did win a championship, absolute goofball. So much so that he couldn't stay on an NBA team and had to go play overseas, right? And so, yeah, he did go chase a championship and he did win it, so he's got that ring. And yet Chris Paul, wherever he went, teams got better. OKC got better when he was on there. Golden State, they got better when he was on there. Everywhere he played, he took a team to just a little bit of a different level. And his reputation has always been somebody who's been apex leader, knows the game, and has never compromised the integrity of the leadership that he brings in order to go chase rings. Yeah, he did go to other teams to see what was out there, but also notably went and played for San Antonio so he could mentor Victor early on in his career. Like, that's the kind of, I think, career that it goes beyond just a championship and is also sort of impacting the wider sort of leadership of the game in a way that is really meaningful.
That Chris Paul OKC season is forgotten, but you're right. Like, that team had no business being as good as they were back in that season. So Chris Paul, I reckon he'll coach.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, especially seeing what JJ Redick has done.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. Let's get out of here.
That looks like a fun Thanksgiving dinner.
I'm going to sit with the drunk uncles.
Yeah, right.